Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next Brainstorming special with Chris from TGIK Games. Today, we are going to be working on what's called the Color Machine. Last time we did, I don't even know what the name was. It was called it was the first-person shooter base defense game. Well, this time we're going to do a game theory that I've wanted to work on for a while, which is time travel. And I will admit before we get started that this is a very loose version of time travel, at least in my opinion, but I think the general idea still holds true. So I'm going to call it a time travel game, even though I would totally be on your side if you wanted to argue against it. But it is what it is. So let's get started. This is where the game started when we did some brainstorming abstracty goodness. The basic idea is a timeline game where players add cards face down to an order of operations. Cards can be removed. Cards would need a certain number of activations in the timeline of cards in order to produce points at the end, so to speak. That was kind of the rough start. Well, it turned into something a little different, or a lot different, let's be honest. And the idea is it's a color machine. So we're going to set the scene. So the scene is, think of it this way. If you've seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where there's the deep thought, well, we have our own deep thought. And deep thought is there is a color machine. And the goal of the game is everybody wants to produce, players want the machine to produce their color at a specific time. Look at me, not setting us to 150%. Everybody, you can put your reading glasses away. There are different, we're going to say 5 in my head. Yeah, there are different time periods. And the machine, let's not put two things on the same line. There are different time periods. And we're going to say that there are 5 for now. I'm not married to that number. On this machine, there will be hardware and software. Players will be attaching. They'll be attaching hardware, and hardware that makes changes to the color blob. Maybe the really basic premise of this is that let's just sum this up really quickly. Basically, there's a gray blob that's going to go in the machine on day 1, second 1, whatever, the instant the game starts, and at the end of the game, or more importantly, the winning time period of the game, we'll get into that, there will be a color blob that gets spit out. Whoever is able to get that color to be theirs wins. So there is a bit of randomness to this, but the whole point of the game is to move around and mitigate, and you can run diagnostics and stuff like that. So you can have an idea of what the color blob is going to be as you go along. So that's the idea. Basically, you want the machine to spit out the color of your choice at the appropriate time. So players will be attaching hardware to this machine. And then the hardware will make changes to the color blob. The hardware can become obsolete. How do you spell obsolete? Maybe? Yeah, okay. Can become obsolete, but it can also be upgraded. Can be upgraded. Software is installed. It can be virused. It can be, what else did I write down? Let's see. A machine that can have hardware, software installed, blah, blah, blah. Example, player move. No, that's not what we want to get there. Players need to collect energy. Players' time period. Okay. I think I may have written notes deeper in the book here, but I'm not certain. Diagnostics. There will be advanced cards. Yep. Missing cards. Hack the machine. Oh, and it can be encrypted. Okay. So there's hardware and there's software. Players will be installing, attaching hardware and installing software, and you can do various things to said items. Also we can interact with the machine, which means you can run diagnostics. And here's kind of the idea. In each time period, there's going to be a pile of cards that grows. Players will not be each time period has a deck of cards. When a player arrives, they can interact with the deck. Depending on their skill level, they can look at a number of those cards. If a player has high enough skill, they can run a diagnostic on the machine. And basically what that means is players can take the deck and run a color blob through the machine. Blob through the machine and see what gets spit out on the other side. Now here's the problem with where this game sits right now. I have no idea what I want the programs to do or how I want them to work. The same thing for the hardware, for that matter. Like, do I want to add shapes to the colors? Is that a level of complexity that I can add? I feel like there might be too much randomness in this game to really allow for that sort of thing, so I have to make the game short and sweet. But how much fun is it going to be? It's kind of like, in my head, I have an image of a star where gravity's trying to crush it. So think of gravity as the randomness is trying to crush this game, but there's the radiation of fun and interest and exploration, and how powerful is that? And I don't know. So I have to find that balance point. So I don't know how big I want to make this star just yet. We will find out. There's also a bit of a surprise at the end of this video, so stick around. 7-8 minutes so far. Okay. Color machine. I'm just going back into my little booklet and going down from top to bottom. See what I've got here. Maybe there's some hard code events that players don't know about. Oh, okay. That's so. I mentioned this a couple times. Players want the appropriate time period to win. Well, let's say for in the game there are 5 time cards that rep 5 time cards. Maybe I should also say players are going to be running around to the different time periods looking for programs. They're going to be looking for hardware. They're going to be, players have incentive to go to different time periods to look for things. And as they're looking, they're going to be looking for these time cards. This is part of setup, by the way. Okay. And there. Okay. At the beginning of the game, one of the cards is removed. One of the cards is removed. Players need to find the other 4 cards to know what the winning time period is. And honestly, the reason I have this in the game is to make the time travel relevant. The other way that we could do this game is we could say, okay, well, it's just a linear progression over the course of the day or over the course of a week. The machine is going to run programs, and depending on the order of those programs, this is what's going to happen. Well, I want to add in the idea of time travel, because then you can say, okay, well, as hardware gets better, or you can add in, let's complete that thought. As the hardware gets better, or as the processing speed increases in this computer, you can run more programs. So it feels like, because we're building a machine that feels like a computer, it's going to get better over time, and it feels like there's more to play with if we make this extend over a longer period. How much of a longer period? I don't know. I mean, computers, I remember when I was a kid, computers, like I had a 1 gigabyte hard drive, and I was the coolest kid on the block because I had a 1 gig hard drive. Well, now I'm doing this on a 1 terabyte hard drive, and yeah, I've been alive for all of it. So maybe we can set this in the future where, I don't know, maybe I don't know. It feels like there are more options within the design to go with. We're going to set this over a long period of time. So anyway, that was really jumbled, but that's what building a game is all about, being jumbled and spitting it out. Hard code event. Oh, okay, so players need to find the 4 cards. So the idea is that you find the cards and you can eliminate them. That's the idea. Oh, these cards can also, actually I should say, these cards can be held onto as part of a player's hand. This would mean that players need to be able to interact, and that's a really nice way of saying a fight with one another. Or, better put, players need to be able to access each other's hands. And there's a lot of caveats that go in there, but it's just a general thing that if you're going to allow players to hide stuff from one another, then you have to give players a way to actually look at each other's stuff that they don't want you to see. Players need to collect energy to move in time. I don't know how I feel about this, but I wrote it down in the notebook, so we're gonna write it down here in the digital. Players need to collect energy to move through time. I feel like this is just an extra economy being attached to the game, and I don't know if we need it. I mean, it could. It's just the thing is, if I think about it, okay, I'm going to just allow players to say, okay, well, I'm going to time travel back to period 2. I don't know if that feels. It doesn't feel right. It just allowing as a free action. I feel like I want players to have to work. Like, I know I need to get back to. I have to jump 3 time periods to do what I want to do, or I've discovered where what the winning time period is, so I need to work very specifically on that region of time. But getting there is going to be tough. But once I'm there, I'm good. All these questions of what are the questions I want players to have to ask themselves when they're considering going from one time period to another. Ooh, that's worth writing down. And what are the questions I want players to consider when they need to travel in time? Good note. Okay. Each time period will have cards players can search, and they will have freeware. Oh, okay. So along with the cards that players will be searching for in each time period, think of it like every time period they go to has a store. Maybe there could be like a Radio Shack, and then after 2 or 3 time periods, Radio Shack can no longer exist. Heyo. Anyway. We'll be searching in each time period. There will be what we're going to call freeware set up in certain regions. If a player takes it, players know what they have. Other players. So, it's just, and honestly, this is built in to give other players a sense of knowledge, or let's be honest, card counting, of what and where things are within the game. Okay, it's an extra layer of agency, because games like this where there's a lot of hidden information, and that hidden information is actually quite critical to winning a game, you need to give players as much agency as you think you can. So that's something that can be built in quite easily, and gives players it removes the barrier, so to speak, at least as far as that's how I'm approaching it. There's a missing card that's removed. Yep, we talked about that. When players arrive at a time, they can see hardware. They need to interact with the machine. Yep, we talked about that. Players can encrypt this. Yep, we talked about that. Diagnostics can be run. We talked about that. There will be advancement cards that will be placed on the general track. These advancements will make certain hardwares or softwares obsolete. However, players can install upgrades to mitigate against these advancements. Okay, we're going to write that down. Advancement cards will make hardware and software obsolete. These cards will also be, these will be flip, draw and reveal. Not sure how these will be applied yet. Players will have to be able to mitigate advancement. Because basically, I don't want to have a player spend 45 minutes working on one region because they happen to get lucky and they know what the winning region is early on in the game. And so they spend all this time working on zone 2 because that's the winner. And then all of a sudden an advancement comes along and it makes half their hardware obsolete. And that sucks. No, that is not the experience we're going for. However, if a player knows that, they say, okay, well, early in the game, period 2 is probably going to get hit with an advancement card. So what I need to do is I need to run around and I need to collect. I've run a diagnostic on zone 2. I know what it's going to spit out at the end. I've been paying attention to what other players have been playing. So I have to build in mitigation to do that. So it gives players something to play for, or if something shows up bad. And if at the very end of the game, then that's a luck element. Or let me complete that thought. If at the end of the game, players have been spending an hour holding on to the zone 2, and then all of a sudden the last turn of the game, the last card of the game is an obsolete card. Yeah, it sucks. I don't. That's honestly, that's something we'll have to play with in play testing, because I got to be honest, if that was me, I'd probably get removed from the game. But did I have fun? And that's the question I don't know. That's the answer I don't know. That's the question I don't know the answer to. We got there eventually. It took a little bit. Okay, what was I writing down? Advancements. Yep, install upgrades. Okay, players that need to be up. Okay, that means upgrades to software and hardware. Okay. Players have a hand limit. Are discards public? Yes. Okay, so this game will have a hand limit, and and discards will be public for issue. Oh, you know what we'll do? We'll say discards become part of freeware. Discards become part of freeware until freeware meets criteria of whatever. And then freeware is reset. Yeah. And by reset, I essentially mean all the cards in that time period that are drawable are put into a deck, shuffled up, and then freeware cards or face-up cards are put back onto the board. Okay, well, that's it. That's the end of my list. Oh, we got there abruptly. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure, because I feel like I wrote notes on another game, and no, that's the deck builder. That's the missile game. Decks have some sort of filler. No, that's the deck builder. Deck builder, deck builder, deck builder, deck builder. I took a lot of notes on the deck builder. And then base defense. Those are today's notes. Okay, well, that's it. Put a check mark on this one. Hex rectangle, that's the next game. So we'll put a check, done. All right, high fives, everybody. We made it. Made it through another one. Well, if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or you can hit me on Twitter at you can find me searching TGIK Games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.